I said, are you ready? Let's get ready to suck it!
Here, the bad boys are wrestling. Testing competition, win the war, that's their mission. Not no mercy. See the rings like the street. If you don't know.
Well, we are here. We are back after a little bit of a hiatus. League World Order, episode 3, I think we're up to. We're back. Four. Sorry, my bad. But here I am, the roast, Dino, with my mate Curtis. How are you, mate?
Dino.
It's been a while. It's lovely to see your beautiful face, mate.
That's very nice of you, mate. But yeah, look, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we were ready to go. I think before Origin, we were ready to go after Origin. We kept having to kicking it back. Basically, the wife's been back in hospital. We won't go into that. But if you follow us on Twitter, then I'm sure that at some point, you guys out there have seen me drunkenly tweet out about different issues. But at the end of the day, she's good. She's home. She's excited. She's actually in the kitchen right now cooking me dinner. I feel a bit sheepish about. But mate, we're ready to go. And hopefully for the guys that have already enjoyed our first 3 episodes, we can get on a bit of a roll now and get some continuity and talk some shit and have some fun as we do it.
Yeah, massive apologies for not updating a podcast over the last couple of weeks. But, hey, we'll make it up for this one and we'll get back onto a bit of a regular schedule for everyone. But, mate, there's been plenty happening, both Rugby League Worlds and Wrestling Worlds. I do want to. I'll probably start off a little bit of a bad note, but you know these guys were around when we were growing up watching wrestling, and there was a passing of a couple of big name referees from days gone by. It was Tim White. Now, say the name, you might know him, but you would have seen him. Short little dude with a beard. You would have seen him in many matches during the 90s and early 2000s, and also Earl Hebner's brother Dave. If you remember the twin debacle of what was it? Hulk Hogan. I can't remember who he wrestled, but yeah, there was the 2 referees. But yeah, Dave was around for many years. Two great guys helping in the world of wrestling. So unfortunately, they passed away both either last week or the week before. So very sad.
I didn't know that. But the thing about Dave Hebner too is that in his own right, he was a very important cog in Vince McMahon's wheel backstage. Good producer, worked all over the place, jumped around the company in different positions. And a lot of the backstage stuff in wrestling you would see, you know, 1 second you see Earl Hebner in the ring, and then next second you're backstage and something's happening, a big melee or a fight or something, and all of a sudden his identical twin Dave, he's breaking something up with the Goons or the Stooges or whatever. He was very important. And Tim White, he was a referee. Well, back, I'm sure, when we were both watching wrestling when it was in its prime, you know, Tim White and Teddy Long and all these guys, great referees that, you know, you don't get them very often anymore, but very sad.
Yeah, it was. And, a lot of these guys, you don't realise that the referee in the ring and what you see on TV, but backstage they're, helping with bookings, they're helping organise travel, all that sort of stuff for the wrestlers, and a lot of them, you know, have really good relationships and often best friends with a lot of the wrestlers as well. So sad to see them. Like most of the time, they're very quiet in the ring. You don't, normally, talk about referees that much, but a very important cog of the wheel, like you said. So yeah, very sad. 24 years since Hell in a Cell today. Now, Mankind tweeted out, so it's the 28th of June. Now we're recording this. It's Wednesday, the 29th of June. Now. When do we celebrate it? Do we wait until... Do we celebrate on the 28th or the 29th? I've always had this issue with things happening in America. When do we actually say it's, 25 years? Because we would have said it yesterday, but it wouldn't have actually happened till today. So for us, it would have been the 29th of June. I don't know. It's a real... probably minor point, but I'm just like, I'm thinking about like, when do we celebrate? Do we celebrate the day they do, or do we celebrate the day that it happened? Here, which is the same sort of thing. I don't know. I get a little bit confused.
Look, yeah, I agree with you. It's a tough thing because we live on the other side of the world. But just really quickly on Mick Foley, I mean, before he even got to, and people have to remember this, before he got to the WWF, where Vince actually wanted to call him the Mutilator, which is a shocking name, and Vince had some shocking ideas in his time. He wanted to call Ric Flair Spartacus as well, by the way. Mick Foley was already Cactus Jack and done a million street fights and a million dumb things across the world, and his body was already fucked by the time he got to the WWF. And all of a sudden, within those few years, he's jumping off, or he's getting thrown off cages, choke slammed through the ring. I hope was that the same match? He got thrown over the cage, then choke slammed through the match. And Terry Funk actually ran out when he wasn't supposed to and broke character and ran out and thought. Remember, he
was getting taken away on the hospital bed, and he gets up and he has that smile on his face and he has that tooth on his mustache, right? And you're like, fuck, what is... I remember hiring that from the local video store and watching that like 1,000 times. And yeah, it was crazy. I mean, he gets back up, climbs back up the top as Undertaker was starting to come down. They both go back up there. They continue to fight. And yeah, he gets chokeslammed through the ring onto some thumbtacks. And yeah, that was absolute crazy match.
I think he landed on a chair. There was a chair in the ring, and he said the chair made the fall worse because he was aware that he was falling to the ground. But then I think it was I could be wrong, but there was something in the ring that
it was a chair. Yep.
But I mean, he's a madman. And if you look at the hardest thing for me to watch back in the day was that documentary Wrestling with Shadows, and watching his beautiful wife and his very, very young kids, Dewey, and the girl, I think, who's now got an OnlyFans account, but no dirty stuff, apparently, from what I've heard from
womankind.
Yeah. But very, very hard to watch when he's taking I think it was the chair shots from The Rock at the 99 Rumble World title match, and they're crying in the front row.
That's when he had he was handcuffed behind him, wasn't he? That was the I Quit match.
Like 25 chair shots, bad ones. So the fact the man's still alive is one thing. The fact that he's still got his chromosomes and can still do comedy tours and book signings and shit like that, I mean, it flies in the face of if it happened to 500 other blokes, that like I said, they'd be dead or in hospital or wearing nappies at this point. So incredible what he did. And I think because of what he did for Vince, he eventually won the world title, even though it was for only a few weeks, but he got to live his dream and win a world title on Raw as well.
That'll put bums on seats, as the famous quote went.
Yeah, we spoke about that in episode 1, I think.
But yeah, crazy. 24 years since that, so amazing, like where everything's gone since then. It was the glory year. That was like the big years of wrestling. That was 98 when WCW was in its prime, WWF was in its prime. It's just there was so many good things happening there, and that was definitely one of them. So 24 years since Hell in a Cell. Wow, go back and watch it if you get the chance. Now, just clearing up a little thing. So we have a new Intercontinental Champion. Since we last spoke, the Broncos. The Broncos beat Canberra for the title, and then since then, the Storm have beaten the Broncos. So the Storm are now the Intercontinental Champions. They will defend it against Manly this week.
The Storm. So the Storm, like in most people's minds, they're world championship material. But this does happen in real wrestling as well, where a guy like someone like a Chris Jericho will go up and win a world title, or a Booker T or a Benoit or someone like that. But they're so good at what they can do. They can go back down for the next few years and win an IC title or a US title. So the Melbourne Storm, they're doing their thing for the competition. They're doing their thing for the LWO podcast. They'll be very hard to beat for that IC title for a while, I think, without looking at the fixtures.
Yeah, well, I'm going back down. I fucking hate when I go to the NRL app and you're about to click something and then an ad sort of comes down. You accidentally click the ad. It just happened again.
It's a G-up. They do it on purpose. And then they can tell the company that's paying for that
we got X, yeah.
They go, I've got to click-throughs.
Dirty dogs. Now they defended against Manly on Thursday night. Then they come up against. They've got 2 away games actually. Sharks, Manly, and then Sharks. Then they Canberra get a chance to try and reclaim it. So, and then away again to the Rabbitohs and the Warriors. So they'll have to go over to Mount Smart. So yeah, look, 5 weeks over the next 5 weeks. But then the big one, they come up against the Panthers in round 22, which the Panthers can't win it. So if they win the next 5,
well, hang on. What if the Panthers win? Can't they hold both belts?
No. So we clarify. I clarified this. I don't know if it was on the podcast, so I'll clarify it now. What we said was, if you're the world champs, which the Penrith Panthers are the world champs at the moment. They won the world championship last year. They can't win it this year. They can't win the Intercontinental. So it's basically for every other team. I think I did that just so that you don't have this, team that's the world champs. They have this, and then they go on this run where they're just not giving it up. It just creates a bit more variety. But now the Storm have won it, they could go the rest of the year undefeated and take it all the way, become double champs. But that's just a little tidbit. So yeah, if you win the world championship the year before, you can't win the LWO Intercontinental title.
Fair enough.
So yeah, so the next 5 weeks interesting for the Storm. I'd love to see who gets it over them. I might tip the Sharks actually. I think the Sharks might get it next Thursday.
The big one might be the game after Origin or before, when Storm lose their players. Is the game before?
Oh well, that would be it. That's the week. That's the weekend before Origin.
It's a Wednesday night game, so it'll be the week before Origin 3. So the Sharks are up.
It's like a handicap match. But we've cleared that up. So yeah, look out for that one. Now, John Cena, 20 years in the ring. It was actually 20 years exactly from his debut in June. What was it? 27th. Since his debut, they celebrated 20 years of John Cena. Look, I'm not a massive John Cena fan. I didn't really he was very one-dimensional, I found, but a lot of the kids obviously gravitated towards him. He did, massive achievements in the ring. He's won so many titles. He's done, so many sold-out shows, all that sort of stuff. But for me, I just didn't resonate towards him. But hey, 20 years is massive. So congrats to John Cena for doing that. And if you're a John Cena fan, let us know, what was your favourite John Cena moment. I've got a little moment which I thought was probably my favourite. Like out of everything, I didn't enjoy him too much, but I thought what he did when ECW, the one night stand against Rob Van Dam. Do you remember that? It was like he was getting
Hammerstein Ballroom, New York.
Yep, he was getting booed to the shit house. There were signs, if Cena wins, we riot. He was getting spat on, whatever. Sorry, yeah, fuck you, Cena. It was the first real he'd been cheered so much, and even as a villain, he was still not, booed that much. But that was just terrifying. I would have been terrified if I was in there. But he goes in, defends not defends it. He fights. He had the championship, and he defended against Rob Van Dam. Lost it to Rob Van Dam. I remember at the start of the show, he's taking his shirt off. He throws it to the crowd. They're throwing it back. For me, it was more like how he handled that. He went in knowing that he's going to be booed to the absolute shithouse. He's not going to be, favourite at all. Gives up the title to Rob Van Dam and sends the crowd home happy. But for me, that was probably one moment where I went, this guy's, a decent sort of fella, and I liked it. But did you ever have a John Cena moment that you liked, or even didn't like, or?
I totally agree with you, mate. We're almost the same age, so I grew up in an era where Cena was kind of forced down your throat, and like he was super Cena, and no matter what happened, you could run a truck over him and he'd somehow win the match. All that shit. But then now you look back on it now, and the way the crowd reacted the other night, that's the first time I sat down, and maybe it's because the missus was in hospital, and I was just flicking through KO, and it said Monday Night Raw full replay, and it was that episode. I didn't even know Cena was on it. And I watched the whole show, and it brought back so many good memories, I'd say. But the one that sticks out for me, and I think it was 2011, and the WWE had been so watered down, and it was just the same every week. Everyone was the same. It was like, Cena, Orton, Edge, Big Show. That was basically it. for several years. No one really got promoted or relegated from their positions. And all of a sudden, CM Punk came along and did his pipe bong. That was the RED.
Oh, yeah. He had many pipe bongs.
No, but then Punk came along and did that promo where he sat down on the stage and it was kind of like 50-50, where it was 50 kayfabe and 50 real, where I think Punk must have gone to Vince and Triple H and Cena and said, look, this is gonna spice it up, and he got to say what he wanted to say, and it started this amazing feud, which got me back into wrestling for a few months anyway, where a good feud or good wrestlers can make you forget that you are actually watching professional wrestling and actually buy into it.
Yep.
And that made me do that, and that was at how old was I then? Mid-20s at that point. And the fact that CM Punk was going up to Vince and he says, I'm not coming back into the company unless you make these ice cream bars with my face on it and all this shit. And he's slapping Vince in the face with Vince's own tie in the ring. And he's bagging out Triple H and he's bagging out Kevin Nash, who shouldn't have even been there to start with. But then it all came down to this contract thing. And on the last night, Money in the Bank, the night of Punk's last day in the company in Chicago, 2011 Money in the Bank, it was one of the best pay-per-views I've seen, and it was jacked from the start to the end. And Punk actually won the match, won the title, and ran out through the crowd. And so the next night on Raw, Vince comes out and says, well, Punk's gone. He's taken the belt. We need a new champion. And on Raw, I think Mysterio wins the belt for a minute, then Cena comes out and Cena beats him. And then all of a sudden, CM Punk's music for the first time, and no one had heard Cult of Personality CM Punk, that theme yet. It was the emo kind of song before that. And for about 3 minutes, the song played, and all of a sudden, Punk came out with his belt on, and Cena had his belt on over his shoulder. And that started, the next couple of months of Punk just going mad and selling out buildings. So, to me, the way Cena, like you said before, the way he carried himself, whether he was getting booed out of the stadium, like people like us who wanted to see the likes of, I don't know, Kurt Angle or whoever it might have been at the time, that they thought were more legitimate champions or whatever, and Cena was just a cartoon character for kids. That feud was my favorite, where Cena helped get Punk to a level where Punk was, selling just as much merch as Cena. So Cena didn't always do that, but he helped get Punk to another level after Punk started something with that first promo. So that's what I appreciate about John Cena.
He's always had really good programs with all the top stars like Edge, Randy Orton, like you said, CM Punk. So the fact that he can do that for me,
Chan,
yeah.
I couldn't handle that because he could wrestle enough.
Yeah, and I think that was just they just bring it out, 1 minute into the match where he hasn't, even had a chance to, throw his moves about and stuff. But it was very, like I said, for me, it was very one-dimensional. I just couldn't, sit there and watch him over and out. But every time he had a really good feud going, that he would get really animated, start his promo, like he's one of the best promo guys in the business, right? He can just riff off the cuff, and to do it for 20 years is pretty phenomenal. Going back and watching his debut as well, that was actually, I watched a clip, he posted it, where he goes back and watches it and he critiques himself very, very badly. Actually, he says, this is just, looking back on it, it's terrible. Like, he goes, I had ruthless aggression, but I'm really just, going about my business. If I had ruthless aggression, I would have punched Undertaker when he tried to shake my hand in the backstage and all that sort of stuff. He's very harsh on himself, and I remember he said when he goes into Vince McMahon's office, his first meeting with Vince McMahon, he's like, we're going to give this guy a debut against Kurt Angle. What do you think? And he goes, cut his hair. And that was it. And he comes out with this ridiculous mohawk thing on his head. But yeah, look, 20 years is no easy feat. So well done to John Cena. But I don't think we'll see him wrestle again, to be honest. I think he's moved out of it too much. Even now, like, he looked, he's not in what shape he was. Like, he's always in really good shape, but he hasn't got that. You saw the t-shirt he wore. He didn't really fill it out like he used to. I think he might come back, but I highly doubt it. I think he's done. I think he'll continue to make his TV shows and movies, but might have seen the last of John Cena.
Just on the simple fact that the WWE has that much money, and particularly Saudi money that's coming in for those pay-per-views overseas, where they got Michaels out of retirement for a tag team match. They keep bringing Goldberg back for these huge pay packets, just for the simple fact that they need sometimes a boost.
Yep.
For their TV ratings. I'm sure he'll be back. But you are right in the sense that I had a thought that at the end of his promo on Raw just gone, like I said, I watched the show for the first time in years. He took his shirt off and threw it in the crowd. And he still, when he stood still, he still had the physique. But then when he kind of put his arms in the air and kind of like that, he definitely looked like a 45-year-old. So
yeah.
if he does come back, there could be some tag team matches and stuff like that to try to cover for, some rustiness or age or whatever it might be. But I'm sure we'll see him back. And if I had to put money on it, it would probably be in Saudi Arabia.
Look at us fitness fanatics here critiquing John Cena's physique, but...
It's easy to do it for me.
It is. Mate, last week we were going to talk about the international matches that were coming up. Obviously, we delayed it, but let's have a look back, I suppose, on the internationals in rep round that just happened. There was Lebanon v Malta on Wednesday night, little midweek international, which was great. But then the three big ones for the men's, New Zealand v Tonga, Samoa v Cook Islands, and Fiji v PNG, mate. What did you think of the matches on Saturday, and what was, I suppose, your highlight from the weekend?
And special mention too to the women's Origin game on Canberra on Friday night. That was an awesome finish, and that they are doing so well. And the quality of the games too. I'm a little bit worried about how many the teams are coming in next year, but I think we've got enough depth looking at the state games. And the big thing too is not just the quality, which is so much better than the AFL women's, which is horrid, and that comes from Victorian mates that only watch AFL. But the paying crowd of 11,000 people at Canberra Stadium can't be underestimated.
That was massive.
So that is 11,000 fans that have put their hands in their own pockets to go, whereas basically it's been open doors and free tickets and free entry for any AFL women's game over the years for similar crowds.
I'd say it was a Friday night in Canberra too. It was fucking freezing, right?
Yeah, that was the only game on. That was the only game on. That was Friday night footy, and they delivered. So good on them. It's hard to split it, but just Tonga, the crowd. I saw some footage. You probably saw it, but through the streets of Auckland, and just traffic at a standstill, and Tongan traditional music playing, and the flags, and I mean, it's rugby league, so we'll probably fuck this up. We kind of have already by going back to
cancelled rep round next year. Got rid of it.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Idiots.
Sure.
Can they not see? Look, you see the hype that was around this weekend, and see what the crowds that were brought out for it. Like, I think New Zealand v Tonga was sold out within a few days of it being announced. The double header at Campbelltown, right?
Yep.
And Jimmy Smith showed a video. There was lineups from both angles, right?
Yeah,
massive lineups to get in. 10 minutes before the thing. Mate, you got to give him something during the year. You can't just take it away from him. For me, you've got to have, I actually don't particularly like the stopping the NRL in the middle of the season, but if it means doing it for them to give them some international football, then I'm all for it, because we're progressing something. We're taking away something to progress something else, right? So I don't mind that. But I was actually, one of my notes here was I hate the football, the split rounds where they have 4 games on a weekend where all the teams are missing Origin stars and stuff like that. I hate that. But rep round's different. All the teams get a bye. There's no football. It takes pauses for 1 weekend out of the year, and now they're going to take it away. But sorry, mate, I got a little bit distracted there. But you were saying New Zealand v Tonga was your highlight, the crowds and stuff.
The only point I would make onto that, sorry, before you go on, Dean, with your point, was I would like to see, instead of playing these games in Campbelltown, next time we get a chance to play these rep games, instead of playing in Campbelltown, take Samoa to Apia in Samoa, let the Commonwealth play in Port Moresby, let Fiji play in Suva, play it in front of the locals.
Yep.
Play it over there. Sorry, you go on.
I think that adds to more costs and stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah. No,
but could you not take
money on investment?
Yeah. Could you not take both games to PNG this year and then or next year, and then the year after take it to Fiji, the year after take it? Yep.
It'll be bad.
Well, PNG, it's gonna be people bloody climbing telegraph poles just to get a glimpse of some of these guys in action. So, but yeah, look, for me it was the New Zealand Tonga game. It was not the game, just the atmosphere. Really, it was a sea of red, right? And they were they got pumped a little bit. But even when they scored, the crowd went wild. They knew they weren't going to win, but they just celebrated every little win that they had within the game. So I just, mate, I love it. And at first, top flight, one of the big games back in New Zealand, one of the first games there. So it was good to see. And we get the Warriors back home this weekend, so even bigger. But that was my highlight. But we were going to tail this into talking about the international games. We wanted to have a look at some of the internationals from Australia that have done well on the wrestling scene overseas. So if you've got one out there, listeners, let us know. Like, tags on social media, especially Twitter. We've got a lot of good guys that sort of jump in and out there. Let us know on Twitter who is someone that you've either looked at in the past or you're currently looking at in the wrestling scene that have done well from Australia. I know what's your favourite? Mark Mercedes. He's one of your old faves. Mario Milano, Outback Jack. There's been a fair few Aussies do some good things over the years. Some current ones we look at, Daniel Vito and Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's a former women's champion, and Daniel Vito doing stuff on SmackDown Live there. But do you have any standouts? Like, do you have any sort of favourites that you've either now or in the past?
Oh, look, my favourite's going to be right now is I think he originally signed as the Samoan Ghost, and it's Vito, but he's going by Zion Quinn in NXT at the moment. He's actually already made his debut on SmackDown. He got smashed in a squash match against Sheamus, but he sold well.
That was back during the start of COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah,
there was no crowd there, which was
Vince was happy with him, but I've just made a couple of notes here and a couple of fun facts. And one of them is a bloke called Outback Jack in the WWF in 1986. And he came in on the back of Crocodile Dundee went mad in America. His quote, he's saying, like, how The Rock's got finally, or, Austin's, don't trust anyone, or, whatever he says, DTA or what, or whatever it is. Outback Jack's saying was, no worries. That's so
Aussie. No worries, mate.
His theme, right? This is not good now. Timey Kangaroo Down, sport by Rolf Harris. So let's keep him away from
would not fly right now. Yeah.
He basically had a 2-year run. He had a couple of early wins against the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. But that was it for him after 2 years. Never seen again. Nathan Jones, the big fella,
mate. I've got him written down. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to talk about him first? Because
No, you talk about it. I've just got a little dot points at the end, so go for it.
No, I was just going to say, huge man, and I think he was in the latest Mad Max movie as one of the sons of the old mate, the main bad guy. But
he was,
from memory, he was just booked. He was booked at WrestleMania 2003 to tag with Undertaker against A-Train and The Big Show. And I think at the last second, Vince got cold feet. And on Sunday Night Heat before the pay-per-view, A-Train and Big Show knocked him out in the toilets with a chair over his head, and Undertaker had to go it alone in a handicap match. And then Jones came back at the end, had a run-in, and actually helped Undertaker win the match. But the other one is actually Kiwis, right? The Bushwhackers.
Sorry, I just want to go back real quick on Nathan Jones.
Sorry.
He had after that, he went on and made a fair few movies, famous in Troy, when
I haven't seen Troy.
Achilles has to fight him where they take control of the two armies. So they send out the biggest guy, which is Nathan Jones, and he's here rolling up the crowd, and he starts running, throwing his spear at Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt runs, dodges, and then jumps up and just stabs him in the neck, and he goes down like a sack of shit. But a very short cameo. But he's also in the new movie with Chris Hemsworth, which is Spiderhead on Netflix. Now,
I saw that.
This isn't. We don't get paid here. I'm not promoting Netflix, but I'll tell you what. If you've got it, go watch it. It got some really bad reviews. I think it's like Chris Hemsworth's worst movie on Rotten Tomatoes and all that. Well, I actually loved it.
Those people on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I actually liked it. I thought it was very new age. It was. I won't give too much away, but he plays a character in that, and he has a couple of scenes which are quite funny. And so yeah, he's doing a few.
They put him in a room and they kind of like gas the room and make him react to different things or something, right?
So basically, it's okay. If you want to watch it, you haven't watched it. This may contain spoilers, so I'm warning you now. Just fast forward. What it is they're prisoners and they sign a thing to go to this facility where they're hooked up to a drug thing where they can administer drugs on basically they press a button and they get administered these drugs. The drugs being new technology that this doctor wants to try and get sold or get over the line, and they're high doses of endorphins and love induced drugs, drugs that'll give you nightmares and all this sort of stuff, and he's testing them out to see which ones sort of basically around love and stuff. So they'll give them one and then they'll just end up fucking each other on the lounge, and then they sort of monitor what they do for the next week. Like from that, will they fall in love? And different things. So not giving too much away there, but yeah, he plays one of the prisoners, and it's funny because it's just after a scene where they've been administered drugs and they start rooting, and then they bring him back in, these two guys, and he's like, hold on, are they gonna give me some drugs? And the Miles Teller, the main character, he's like, no, I just don't want to do anything. And they just sit him there for like 10 minutes. I think it's more just to scare the fuck out of him. But yeah, quite funny. But go watch it. Yeah, he's in that. So he's had a few cameos in movies over the years, but I think his wrestling days are definitely over. But he was the first Aussie to wrestle on a WWE pay-per-view back in the early 2000s. So that's I suppose a special thing you can hang his hat on. But
I think from memory, sorry, Dana, I was just going to say from memory, is it Survivor Series 2003? It's a 5-on-5 match, and Nathan Jones is a heel by that point. And the 5 fuckers on that team are all 7 foot tall. Like Matt Morgan, who went on to TNA, and all these giants. It looked very impressive. But back to your point about that movie, Chris Hemsworth, I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty sure he's just finished making a movie about Hulk Hogan where he plays Hulk Hogan, and it's going to come out soon.
I know he was doing. I don't know if it's finished.
Maybe. I don't know if it's finished or not, but
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, so I think that's where he had the 5 o'clock shadow for a long time, and I'm pretty sure that's could have been the NWO days.
Ooh.
But, yeah, I'm not sure.
I'll tell you what, like it depends. You sort of want a Hulk. I hate to say it, but you sort of want a Hulk Hogan biopic when he's gone, because anything if he's involved in it, you're not going to see the proper Hulk Hogan biopic, right? It's going to be what he wants you to see, which will be, all the lies and shit that he's fucking held on to for so many years. Same with Vince, right? We're never going to get a proper insight into Vince's life until he's gone.
I agree.
It will be, but it depends on, again, who wants to talk about. Like, and I don't like talking about when people are, people that are alive that are going to die. I'm just saying, I do want a Vince McMahon biopic. Do I want one produced by Vince? Hell no, because he's not going to agree to all the shit that needs to be told, all the stories that he doesn't want told, basically.
Well, I think for several months, and for several years, they've been talking about a Vince movie, and I think they finally signed off on a script that they were happy with, which, again, Vince was helping with the script. And I think at one point, Bradley Cooper was going to play Vince in the movie.
Vince would love that.
But you're absolutely right, mate. And the perfect example is if Hulk Hogan's helping write this movie, then in 1993, whatever it was, we're going to see Hulk Hogan come out in the movie with a black eye because a jet ski hit him in the head. But if someone else makes the Hulk Hogan movie, then Randy Savage punches him out because he misses in the hotel room. You know what I mean? So
yeah, so that's the point, right? You want someone that's willing to tell the story, and where Hulk's not going to be able to get in there and go, I don't want this said because that's bad for my image and all that sort of stuff. You just want the true story, which we're probably never really going to get either way. But Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a biopic. Actually, on the topic of movies, I want to go back to the internationals, the Aussie internationals. But while on the topic of movies, I do want to do another movie review.
Yeah, let's do that.
And I want to do one of Hulk Hogan's classics from the 90s. Now, there's two of them. There's I think it's Mr. Nanny and Suburban Commando. So I'm going to do a poll up. I'm going to do a poll up on Twitter as soon as we're done tomorrow and find out which one you want us to do. But let us know. Yeah, go to that. It'll be posted when you're listening to this. You go to Twitter, you'll see it there. Let us know what movie we want to do because we want to do one for the next episode, which will be in another 2 weeks. And
I can't wait because they both sound like shit.
Mate, I have watched them both early, like when we first started talking about doing this podcast, and I went back and watched them, and yeah, they don't hold up that well. But it's quite funny. Undertaker's in Suburban Commando as a one of the aliens that comes to get him, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, so we'll work out which one we're going to do. But back on the international, so there are some really good ones getting around at the moment as well. Buddy Murphy, Tony Storm in AEW. They're getting around, so keep an eye on them. Also, there's a tag team called Aussie Open. Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher forming a little bit of a good combo there in AEW. So AEW is doing some pretty good things at the moment. We talked about Pipe Bomb promos. Go back and watch MJF's from about a month ago now. It is one of fucking all-time greatest promos I've ever seen. So...
Yep.
One of the things actually got me interested back into like AEW. I've sort of been watching a little bits and pieces, but I've gone out and got myself a subscription and I'm sort of watching every week now. So,
look, but what do you think of the booking though? Like I started when it first started AEW, I was like, this reminds me of WCW at its peak, and it is different to WWE. And even old mate Tony Khan said, we're going to base our titles on and rankings on wins and losses, and they've gone away from that. And I can't keep up with it. And everyone's in there's tag teams and run-ins, and
they have too many factions
everywhere.
Yeah, they have too many stables, right? It's like, oh, this is the gun club, and this is whatever. I'm like, how many fucking stables do you have? You don't. Yeah. You need 2 or 3 big ones, right? But you don't. Yeah. Everyone doesn't need to be involved in a stable. I know it sort of helps promote these young ones that don't, have a name for themselves yet, gives them more screen time, gives them an excuse to get out to the ring and on screen and stuff like that. But for me, it's just a bit too much and a bit too confusing to try and follow along with. So, yeah, I don't like that part of it. Look, some of their matches are absolutely, great. I can't really think of it. They're really good to watch. They've got some great workers there, like, John Moxley, Chris Jericho, and guys like that. They've got some decent names in there that are doing some really good stuff. So I don't know. I'll continue. I'll continue to watch it. No, I'll continue to watch it, and I suppose throw it out there to the people. Let us know what you think. Are you, if you're still watching wrestling, are you more on the WWE side? Are you moving over to the AEW, or are you just sort of giving up because you sort of get to an age where you do sort of give up a little bit? You go, people, you start listening to people going, people don't watch wrestling anymore and all that sort of stuff. But I still like it just for the entertainment value. It's something to follow along, a story to follow along each week.
I was definitely in the AEW the first year.
Yeah,
I think they're doing some good things. I think that at the end of the day, wrestling is a very simple thing to try to book, I guess, in a way that you got a good guy and you got a bad guy, and there's a reason for them fighting.
Yep.
And I like I said, I haven't watched a full episode of Raw in about, I would say, 10 years, 8 years. And thank Christ, because it's a 3-hour show. So on KO, they actually just cut all the ads out, and it's just basically 2 hours straight of wrestling. And I don't know if it's because Vince is in trouble right now with with some women in his life and some issues with paying women off, and he's not booking the shows per se. But I really enjoyed the other night. It was really basic stuff. It was good guys, bad guys, and promoting a pay-per-view. But, yeah, look, AEW right now, they're definitely struggling in the fact that I think old mate Tony Khan, he's a billionaire. He's the son of a billionaire. He owns Fulham, the football club in England as well. His dad owns the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL. So this is kind of like a side project for Tony Khan. I appreciate that he really loves wrestling, but I think there's too many people in that company that understand that let's just do whatever Tony wants to do because we're on huge contracts.
Yeah, true. Yep.
So look, I'm more than happy to give him another chance, and I'm sure I will. But right now, it's just chaos. There's hardcore matches and street fights for no reason, and people going through tables every minute of the night. Very, very hard to watch. Maybe I'm just a little bit too simplistic.
I think their roster is way too big. They've got too many. It's like they go, holy shit, someone from WWE is not wrestling anymore or wants out. Let's get them. And they bring him in without any real direction. And it's okay to have a name, but that name only, even if, sometimes you're the biggest name, it only goes so far. You've got to give them a story. You've got to give people, like we talked about, something to care about. You need someone to follow along that doesn't just make you, you've got to make the person feel about the match. So at the moment, they're struggling to do that a little bit.
And the other issue for me with AEW too is that a huge name will have a match with a jobber or some young kid who could be good in 10 years, but for some reason they've got to have a 10-minute match where the jobber's getting two pinfalls or close pinfalls and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with squash matches. There's nothing wrong with building a guy and saying, let's make this guy undefeated for 3 months and then put him in a feud with, a big name, building that, because that's what makes you believe in the wrestler.
Yeah, 100%.
If you just 50-50 shit every week, then within 3 months, no one's going to care about anyone.
Yeah. So
look at us. We should just be in charge of these companies. You can have AEW.
Give us a $1 billion company. Give us a $1 billion company to look after. No worries.
Let's do it.
Hey, last I better say last week, but we haven't talked for a while. Back 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, Rabbits, the great Ray Warren announced his retirement from commentating right before Origin 1, so it could be 6 weeks away. But yeah, he's retired. He's given up the golden microphone, handed it off to God knows who now. But a legend commentator, did 99 Origins, countless decades of regular footy. He will be sorely missed over the next few for the rest of my watching days. But it got me thinking about some of the best commentators in both rugby league and wrestling, and if we could form a perfect duo, who would we pick? Now, let's go over some names, like some of the wrestling names. Actually, no, I'll start with some of the NRL names. We've got obviously Ray Warren, Rabbits Warren. Currently, we've got Dan Ganane, Matt Russell, Warren Smith, Andrew Voss, Matty Thompson, who's taken over from Rabs. Some of the colour commentators, you could say. Cooper Cronk, Blocker Roach, Fatty Vorton, Andy Ryan from back in the day. Who are some of the commentators, I suppose, that you remember that you grew up listening to in the NRL, or even some today that I've missed out?
Oh, obviously Ray Warren for everyone. I mean,
he'd have to be everyone's number one, wouldn't he?
He's a warm blanket, mate. And yes, and it's very easy to agree with people that say that at a certain point, maybe 2010 onwards, he changed his style a little bit, because I think the people that were commentating around him, it was more about personality than the actual analysis of the game. Ray Warren before that was very straight and then kind of played off a little bit. And if he had a joke with Fatty or Sterlo in the commentary box in the 90s, you would laugh along with it because it was a little bit rarer. Ray Warren was number one, obviously in a TV sense. I really, really rated Warren Boland on ABC in the early 90s. He was really, really, really good. I could never get behind Rex Mossop, and he was in the commentary box for years. And he was just so dry and straight and angry, and I don't know how he had a job for so long. But he was the voice when the game kind of went into TV. He had a job for years, but there aren't too many others. Like when you talk about like the absolute echelon, like Vossi was awesome.
What about like back in the day? Back in the day, Daryl Eastlake, didn't he do like
big Daryl on Origin?
Daryl Eastlake Origin, yeah. I still remember like hearing it so often. The 12th Man when he did, he did Daryl Eastlake and Jack Gibson, and it was Pierce off, Jack Gibbs on. And he's like, piss off, Jack, Gibbs on. He's like, what'd you say, fuck knuckle? And like, it's a classic piece of commentary. If you've never heard it, go listen to it. But if you have heard it, go listen to it again. But I never really, I suppose, listened to too much of Daryl Eastlake, but he was big back in the the 80s and 90s, especially around Origin and stuff like that. So he's another one. But if we move on to the wrestling side, if you look at some of the big names as a commentator, not colour, just the actual commentary, like guys like Kevin Kelly, Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, Vince McMahon when he was there, Gorilla Monsoon. Some of the colour ones, some fantastic names. Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jesse the Body Ventura, Jerry the King Lawler. Everyone's had some sort of a nickname. Paul Heyman, Jim Cornette, Taz. I still remember Macho Man getting in there in the early 90s and stuff. So, mate, who are some of the big names that you remember? I've probably named a fair few of them, but...
No, you're close enough. Look, I think Jim Ross, for the simple reason that he wasn't just calling the match; he was getting the match over.
Yep.
His intensity. It's a bit like what Ray Warren. I can't remember who taught Ray Warren about this, but I remember Ray Warren saying once, "You go up, your voice goes up with the crowd. The crowd tells you when you go up." And I think a lot of commentators these days, in any sport, go too hard for no reason, and it sounds silly. Jim Ross at his peak, and you got to remember too that Jim Ross goes back a long, long way to the territory days and NWA and all that kind of stuff. He knew his shit before he even got to WWF, and obviously, we talk about rugby league's greatest moments on television, us growing up, and Ray Warren's voice being there. Without Jim Ross's voice, selling what was happening. He didn't just, the old saying, you're not selling the mattress, you're selling the sleep. You're not selling the steak, you're selling the sizzle. He went with it, and he made you understand and appreciate wrestling more and appreciate the wrestlers as they did it. Look, Tony Schiavone was really good in when he cared. I think at the back end, a couple of years before he finished up at WCW, he kind of just threw his hands in there and said, this place is a shithole.
He's still going in AEW, and I feel that he's doing that now. I feel like he's just there.
Jim Ross is doing that now.
I think Tony Schiavone more. He feels like he's just there, and he's just like he already knows what the next move is, and he's already planning for it. And it's like
they're taking his money.
Exactly. Yeah. So. I think Jim Ross still gives a fuck, but I think Tony doesn't. But yeah, back in his WCW days, he was, I wouldn't say he's Jim Ross's equivalent, but he was, he was up there. He knew how to describe. Like I remember listening to a lot of, watching a lot of, WCW pay-per-views and things like that, and his voice would get you into the match. He would know how to, like you said, raise when he needed to raise and get the crowd into it. So
I was going to mention, just scribble down two names that I forgot. One guy from WCW who went into Impact Wrestling after that, Mike Tenay, who was a commentator. He was just a fucking nerd. He knew everything.
Yep.
He knew stuff about, if it was Ultimo Dragon versus Juventud Guerrera. He knew everything about Juventud Guerrera, everything about Lucha Libre, and at the same time, he knew everything in the background of Ultimo Dragon, and how the two different wrestling styles of Japan versus Mexico, even though to the untrained eye for, American slob wrestlers of the 90s, the differences that could win or lose the match for those two guys. He knew everything, and he cared. He really cared.
Another one, Joey Styles. In ECW and even when he was in WWE in the early days, he was really good.
I feel sorry for Joey Styles in the fact that when they brought him to Raw, I can't remember when it was, like 2008, 2009, they made him still go with the "oh my gods" and all that shit, which it really didn't suit that situation. And as an outsider, he didn't last too long. Funny story about Joey Styles. Apparently, JBL backstage one night was being a bully. Joey Styles.
Oh, that's unlike JBL.
Yeah, but apparently Joey Styles, who's 5'7" and about 80 kilos, knocked JBL out.
Ooh. I haven't heard this one.
Yeah, no, knocked him out. So if you want to look that up, have a look. But the other guy I was going to mention was Michael Cole. So Michael Cole,
Yep.
I think everyone hates Michael Cole now because it's basically Vince McMahon in his earpiece.
And you can tell, right?
It's boring. You might as well have a robot saying this shit. But Michael Cole, when he first replaced JR, when JR went off with his Bell's palsy, and then, kind of fluctuated in and out of the company for a few years, Cole had and you can hear Cole in like 98, he's got a very different voice because obviously when you get older, your voice, kind of gets a little bit deeper and all that shit. But Cole understood and learned from JR, and he kind of helped paint the picture while you were watching it. And then if you go back to SmackDown when they first done the brand separation in like 2002, where SmackDown started like going nuts and SmackDown was better than Raw 2002. Because Raw had Triple H and a bunch of old WCW guys. SmackDown had all the wrestlers, Angle, all these guys. And Michael Cole and Taz, Vince wasn't in his ear that whole time. And Michael Cole could actually be himself and was very, very good. I can't remember what year it was where it kind of changed, but
and they had a good run for a few years. Taz and Michael Cole.
They started winning the ratings, and Vince got pissed off because Raw was getting beaten, so he basically just sandbagged SmackDown.
How the fuck do you get? How stupid do you get? If you get pissed off, your own show is beating one of your other own shows.
I think because
I know, but if you go, Raw is the flagship show, right? But if you have another show that's beating it, fucking send all your resources there. Keep it going. Keep the hype train.
He's done it with wrestlers. He's done it with it. He's done it his whole life. But anyway, So are we doing combos? Are we going to do weird?
Yeah. So what I wanted to do, if you've got it down, I don't know if I told you this, but I said what I wanted to do is pick a straight commentator from the NRL. And then a color commentator from the wrestling, and then pick a wrestling commentator, straight, and a color commentator from the NRL. So 2 combos. If you want, I can run through mine first. If you can have a look. So my NRL combo, who I want commentating on the NRL, right? I've got Dan Ganane. I know Ray Warren's there, but I'm leaving him. Right? He's ridden off to the sunset. This is who I want now.
Is this Dan Ganane on radio or Dan Ganane on TV?
Dan Ganane on radio, because I think he explains it a lot better, and he's better on radio than he's on TV. He knows people can see it, and I think he does a better job on radio. I like Dan. I'm not saying anything bad about him, I'm throwing him in here. I think he's my NRL commentator. I'd listen to him any NRL game. But with him, I'm going Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, the former governor of Minnesota.
Well, whatever. Yeah, we're one of those fucking many states in the USA. But yeah, look, I loved Jesse the Body. He was a guy that knew. We talk about like raising their voice when they need to and things like that. He knew when to pipe in. He was very well educated. He knew his wrestling, knew his moves. So yeah, Dan Ganane and Jesse the Body Ventura to commentate the NRL. That's my pick. Then for wrestling, who I want to listen to commentate on wrestling. I'm going Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon, he was a gun back in his day. I loved him. I'm throwing him in. Obviously, very passionate about the product that he owned. But yeah, throwing him in. But I'm throwing him in with Fatty Vaughton. Okay. I want a bit of Fatty commentary on wrestling. I want him to go. He comes in every now and then. With his funny little what's an escort and things like that, and his stuff from the Footy Show days was absolutely brilliant.
Next to Vince, going, "That's a sit-up, Vince."
Yeah, exactly right. That's a G-up, Vince. Well, look at this, getting the head wobble when he sees something funny, So that's my combos. That's who I'd love to see. But yeah, let's throw it over to you, Curtis. Who you got?
I've got. One of them I've got no notes next to, but one of them will be JR and Fatty for the same reason. Because then JR could, be, getting into the wrestling and that, and then like for the same thing, Fatty just being a buffhead.
Yep.
And he does that very well. And I like to see Fatty, but particularly now that he's just doing Channel 9, he's having a good time. He's getting paid to go around the country, and he's been a buffhead again. So I'm happy with that. But the two where I've got a little note and I've got little quotes here. So I'm going to go Ray Rabbits Warren and Dusty Rhodes.
Ooh, love it.
All right. So Ray Warren's is going mad. He's getting into the game. A try scored, 100 metres in Origin. And then Dusty just chimes in and goes, Ray Rabbits Warren, that's the try, baby! And then
you even did the lisp.
Dusty Turn it up, Big Man.
That is cool.
That's the try. They win. Anyway, so I've got that, and the other one, polar opposites.
Oh no!
Rex
Just
Nelson.
can we hold on? Can we stay on Ray Warren and Dusty Rhodes for just one more minute? That is gold. That is a really good. Like I could listen to that for hours. Actually, makes me want to go back and just look up Dusty Rhodes commentary on YouTube and just listen to it. That's golden.
I find a dime of kings and queens.
Queen. Oh, and then Ray could go on and talk about how he shared a plane with Snoop Dogg. That'd be hilarious.
Oh, Dusty.
Who you
I know
got?
Snoop Dogg. And the other one, and this is, like I said, polar opposites. Rex Mossop, it was straight as a freaking sword, and Jerry Lawler.
Oh, yep.
So, like, there could be, like I said, again, in the same situation, Ray Warren's going mad. Rex Mossop goes, and that's a try for Manly. That's the grand final. And at the same time, you know, they could be calling NRLW, and Jerry Lawler goes, Rex, puppies. Rex would punch him out.
He would.
Yeah,
That's some pretty good combos there. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, like, if we go the other end, I'll tell you the worst commentary combo. Could you imagine Blocker Roach and Macho Man Randy Savage commentating?
I can do a Macho Man, but I can't do a Blocker.
I don't think any sentence they would say you would understand. Apart from probably Blocker Roach going, this kid, he's a wrestler. I can see he's a wrestler.
Oh, look, with all due respect, I love Spud Carroll as well, but I've heard him on New South Wales Cup commentary. He's pretty close. But, yeah, I mean, Macho Man, like...
Michael Ennis commentating wrestling. Oh, look at that. He'd be like, his voice would go from fucking 10 to 20.
You won't believe it. John Cena has just got the pin over Randy Orton.
I can't do it. I'm just, yeah. I don't. If we might have to cut it early. No, we'll keep it in. That was good.
Oh yeah, Queensland just 101. Oh yeah, dig it.
Mate, we're going close to an hour here. What we're going to do, because I think we're going to record closer to the Origin next time. So I think you wanted to talk about territories and stuff within wrestling. I think that's a really good topic that we could probably explore a bit more on the next one, which will be close to Origin. But
let's be honest, we want to go watch the boxing on telly.
I do want to go watch it. If
Mate,
we've got a couple of Queenslanders going to bash the shit out of each other, Justin Hodges and Ben Hennett. So
is that tonight?
that's on. That'll be on right now.
Oh,
so,
shit. All right. Well, see you later, guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Hey, come on, go on socials. Let us know, who's your best commentator combo? One from the NRL, one from wrestling. Let us know who you'd pick. And also, let us know which movie we want to do. Mr. Nenny or Suburban Commando. I'll put up a poll. Let us know, and we'll do that next week. But as always, Curtis, great to talk to you for one of the best hours of the week. And apologies for not doing it for the last few weeks. Shit happens.
Blame my wife.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm not blaming your wife. I'm not getting in trouble. I've got my own wife that gives me enough shit, so I don't want to get in trouble with someone else's wife. Always a pleasure. Thanks, listeners. Talk again soon.